Yo, what's up and welcome. I'm the one and only West Coast King, and welcome back to Major League 90, where we are talking Major League Soccer. You didn't think I'd stay away the whole offseason, did you? No, I was just waiting for some big signings to go down in the MLS. The transfer window was officially open stateside here, and I was just waiting for some teams to make some big moves so we could actually have some things to talk about here. So now that that has happened, let's get in here and talk about some of the bigger moves that the MLS teams have made in December. So what better place to start than right at the top, the cream of the crop, the pinnacle, the MLS Cup champion Seattle Sounders. And I don't think that's ever going to get old. I don't think I'll ever get tired of saying the MLS Cup champion Seattle Sounders. But they've been very, very active this offseason, which is what I absolutely love about this franchise. They are not ones to sit by and just kind of wait and react to everything that's happening. They are always on the forefront, always pushing forward and making things happen. You saw it happen mid-season when they changed coaches and changed scheme, led to an MLS Cup championship. This season, I said they needed to get younger and more athletic, and immediately they've gone out and started addressing those needs. It's looking like veterans Ivan Schitz and Nelson Valdez are not coming back this season, which is no surprise. It was kind of 50-50 whether or not Ivan Schitz would, and I don't think he is, but he still might. I'm not really sure about that one. But Nelson Valdez is most certainly not. He was a designated player that never played, and when he did, he didn't score goals as a striker. You kind of need to do that until the postseason, and in the playoffs. Can say nothing bad about Valdez. He stepped into a spot where he absolutely needed him, and he did a fantastic job, but he's not coming back for sure for the Sounders. So they immediately went out and started addressing those needs, and they brought in Harry Shipp from Montreal, which I think is a very, very underrated move. I love Harry Shipp. I loved him when he played for Chicago. When he was at Chicago, he was a young, up and coming, young attacking midfielder who looked like he had a lot of potential to him. For some reason, Chicago went through this rebuild phase and is still going through it, where they decided, yeah, we're not going to build around this promising young attacking midfielder. We'll send him to Montreal. Shipp goes to Montreal. I think he was kind of misused a little bit or underutilized a little bit there. Didn't have the best season, and now he comes into a spot in Seattle where he probably will have a starting spot for the MLS Cup champions, taking over that wide midfield spot from Ivan Schitz. And they also went out and got a young, well, sort of young, striker in Will Bruin. And I think that's a good move too. And with everything that's going on, potentially the Sounders have an attack of Harry Shipp on the left, Dempsey in the middle if Dempsey comes back, Ladero on the right, and Jordan Morris up top. That's one of the most potent attacks in the MLS, I would have to say. It's got to be one of the best. If Dempsey does not come back, Ladero would move into the middle, Jordan Morris would drop back to one of the winger spots, and Will Bruin would be up top. So either way, it's looking really, really good. And there's one more rumor circulating around Seattle that Victor Ibarbo may be looking to join the MLS Cup champions as well. I only see that move happening, though, if Clint Dempsey does not come back, if he's still recovering from that irregular heartbeat thing. All signs point to him making a full recovery and rejoining the Sounders this season. But if for some reason, for whatever reason, that does not happen, at that point, Victor Ibarbo would be an option. But for right now, I would say that's probably not going to happen. Another team that, I don't know if they've so much been active bringing players in this offseason, but have been linked with a number of big-name players, is the LA Galaxy, and they've actually lost a lot this offseason. They've lost Robbie Keane. Obviously, they lost Steven Gerrard. They lost their coach, Bruce Arena. So, I mean, they're kind of going through a bit of a transition right now, but they still have tons of talent on that team. The one player that they have secured, well, they secured the rights to him, is Jermaine Jones from Colorado. If they're able to bring him in, to put him in that midfield next to Sebastian Lletget, and they'll have Zardes back, and they'll have Dos Santos playing up top with no Robbie Keane, but they'll still have Giovanni Dos Santos. It's still a very, very dangerous team. I'd say they're one of the more stable teams in the MLS, along with the Seattle Sounders. They're the two teams that are always in the playoffs, perennial contenders, and just if they bring in Jermaine Jones, I think they're going to be fine. I really, really do think they'll probably make another title push next season. But there have been some other names linked with LA Galaxy, including Hernandez from Juventus, Sami Khedira from Juventus, and Jack Wilshere from Arsenal, who's actually on loan right now at, I think, Bournemouth. I can't remember if he's at Bournemouth or Middlesbrough. I apologize. I don't like him because he's Arsenal scum anyway. But Jack Wilshere's also linked with the LA Galaxy. So if they're able to land one of those players, that would be massive. That would be Steven Gerrard-esque. Even though they don't, some of them don't play in the Premier League, and they're not as good as Steven Gerrard, I don't think. But still, they're big name players in world football, and I think they'd be a huge, huge signing for the LA Galaxy and the MLS if they're able to bring any of those players in. So let's go ahead and jump over to the Eastern Conference, and let's start with the teams that finished at the top last season. That would be New York Red Bulls, NYCFC, and Toronto. Those three teams actually haven't done anything. They actually haven't signed a single player, any of them. Toronto actually lost their starting goalkeeper, Clint Irwin, to Atlanta in the expansion draft, but then Atlanta gave him back. So, yep, nothing to report with those three teams at all. So, instead, let's have a look at the team that's finished last in the MLS the last 2 seasons, and the Chicago Fire. Now, Chicago has actually had a pretty impressive offseason. They've been linked on and off with moves for Bastian Schweinsteiger. I still would say that would be just unbelievable if they're able to get Bastian Schweinsteiger to Chicago. I never in my wildest dreams would thought Schweini would go to a team in the MLS, much less the team that's finished dead last the last 2 seasons. Like, why would a player of his caliber and his stature do that? I don't know. If Chicago's able to pull that off, kudos to them. They deserve some kind of award because that would be absolutely unbelievable. But they have also actually pulled off an impressive move already this offseason in signing forward Nemanja Nikolic from, oh my God, let me see if I can remember. Oh, hold on. I got to actually look this up because honestly, I have no idea. They signed him from Polish Champions Liga Warsaw. That's right. They signed him from... I know it doesn't sound impressive, and I couldn't remember even the name, but they are a Champions League team in Europe. So they got to give him that. And he actually has a pretty impressive goal-scoring record for that team. And it's kind of weird that a team that still compete or is still in European... I don't understand why they would give him up. I don't even know how Chicago got him. I don't know how Chicago was pulling these moves off. They're pulling some wizard stuff out there in the Windy City, but if they keep pulling off impressive moves like this, they're not going to finish bottom of the table or bottom of the league anymore. I would say even the signing of that striker, any striker at all that can put the ball in the back of the net, is going to lift them off the bottom of the table. That is where they struggle. They can't score goals. If they add Nikolic with David Accam already there, and somehow if they can pull Schweini as well, that actually looks like a pretty dangerous team. Not saying they're going to make a run at the MLS Cup, but hey, it's the MLS. Anything could happen. So now I did just briefly mention Atlanta in there, a new franchise into the MLS this season, along with Minnesota. So let's actually have a look at those 2 franchises and kind of see how they're building, how they're starting off their MLS lives here. And Atlanta has done a pretty decent job. They started right off once they were announced that they were going to become a team, and they went out and they got some pretty decent players. Kenwyn Jones, who's going to be a good forward, a veteran forward for them, and Hector Villalba, I never know how to say his name, but he looks like a really, really, really good player. I mean, he's only 22, and the fact that they could bring him in, he's such a promising young player. Still, my mind is blown that they were able to do that, especially as an expansion franchise. It was really, really an impressive move from them. But since then, they've had to bring in players to kind of put around them and actually build this team up. But they've done a pretty good job. They've got Michael Parkhurst. They've got Jeff Laurentowicz, some proven MLS talent. Zach Lloyd, if he's able to stay healthy, should be a big help for them as well. And they're also kind of going through the goalkeeper carousel this offseason. They went out and they got Clint Irwin, gave him back to Toronto, acquired Sean Johnson from Chicago, and then immediately shipped him to NYCFC, as now they are pursuing U.S. international goalkeeper Brad Guzan. That is a big name to bring in. However, it's very, very questionable the level of talent that Brad Guzan actually would bring to any team. My opinion, I don't like him. I just, nothing about him to me screams that's a quality goalkeeper right there. Let's not forget, he was the goalkeeper for Aston Villa last season, where they were historically bad. That was an awful Aston Villa team last season. He was the goalkeeper on that team. He's now, I think, at Middlesbrough, the kind of a middle of the road team. And the times I've seen him play for the international team, I've not been impressed. I just am not impressed. He probably will be a solid goalkeeper in the MLS. Somehow people in England think he's quality. I don't know. Nothing, again, to me says that that's a quality goalkeeper there. But, I mean, for the MLS, it's probably good enough. And it's a big name, like I said. It's a U.S. international. So if they're able to get him, more power to him. I'm sure he'll be good for them. But I really hope he just doesn't play for the international team anymore. That's just my opinion. I just don't like him. I don't think he's a very good goalkeeper. Now, as for Minnesota, I wouldn't say they've had quite the big start like Atlanta has, signing some big players. They really haven't signed any big-name players yet to that Minnesota team. However, once upon a time, before they became an MLS side, they played in the lower ranks of U.S. soccer. They had a player by the name of Miguel Ibarra. Maybe you've heard of him. He is a U.S. international player, kind of on the fringes, not a huge starting player, but still a quality player nonetheless. He tore it up for Minnesota in the lower ranks, but they sold him to Club Leon of Liga MX and then sold his MLS rights to Portland. Recently, Minnesota have reacquired those MLS rights and are very, very close to reacquiring Miguel Ibarra from Club Leon and bringing him back to Minnesota for Minnesota's first season in the MLS. That would be a pretty big signing for them. Again, it's a player that they're familiar with, that city's familiar with, and it could really be a player that they build around. And, the city, like I said, it's just that familiarity. It's big for a team that's just stepping into a new league, and I would really, really like that signing. Plus, I just want to see Miguel Ibarra in the MLS. I like the guy. I think he's a really cool player. I hope he plays in the MLS, and I hope Minnesota are able to bring him back. Other than that, not a whole lot going on for Minnesota. They made some moves here and there. There's a rumor going around that they're really close to bringing in former Portland goalkeeper Adam Quarase. We'll see if that happens. That one I hope doesn't, because that dude gave me nightmares as a Portland goalkeeper. As a Sounders fan, I don't really want to see him anymore. That dude is actually pretty good. But if they are able to bring him back, that's a pretty good move for them, I would have to say. So we'll see if that one happens or not. So that is all that I'm going to talk about for today. I know I barely scratched the surface of all the moves that have taken place, but I just don't have time to talk about them all because there's so many have taken place. So let me know if I missed any big ones down in the comments below and which teams you think have had the best offseason so far. Honestly, I would have to say the Sounders had a pretty good offseason. They've acquired some really, really good talent and addressed some major needs. It's a pretty good offseason for them, but that just may be my Rave Green blood coming out. I don't know. So that's it for this one. If you did enjoy it, make sure to let me know by leaving a like below. Subscribe if you're new, and I will see you when we come back for some more Major League 90. See ya.